Today's webinar is with the Bioscience Association of Manitoba, Ag Biotech. Bioscience Association Manitoba is not-for-profit industry association that enables commercial success for Manitoba's bioscience companies by acting as a catalyst for innovation, expanding the sector's skills and workforce development, and leading with one unified voice to create local and global engagement. So please welcome Andrea Ladesseur from Bioscience Association of Manitoba. Over to you, Andrea.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us. Is it okay if I share my screen? I've got a PowerPoint that I would like to use.
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Okay, 1 second while I get that all set up. Great. Well, thank you so much for having us. As mentioned, my name is Andrea Ladesseur. I have the privilege of being the president for the Bioscience Association of Manitoba. As was mentioned, we are an industry association, so we work with over 700 companies here in the province that have some connection to the bioscience field. So that often gets overlooked or isn't well understood of what that is. And again, part of my job is meeting people and sharing the great story that comes from within this sector. But before I start, I would also like to do a land acknowledgement. So noting that we are on the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Oji Cree, the Dakota, the Dene people, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. BAM respects the treaties that were made on these territories, and we acknowledge the harms and the mistakes of the past. And we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. We see the beauty, the strength, and the pride of all Indigenous peoples and commit to continue to seek and understand the harms that were done and that are still being done today. We all have a role in supporting the healing, the dreaming, and the building of a bright future for all. And we're all grateful that the attempts of the past to eliminate Indigenous people, cultures, and tradition and knowledge was not successful. That's a testament to the strength of the Indigenous people and not how atrocious these atrocities were. They have had lasting impacts, and we acknowledge we all have a role to play. So thank you for allowing me to say those few words. So our industry association, I mentioned, has 700 companies, and it actually is one of the #1 exports out of Manitoba as well, and I'll get to that in a little bit. It has over 14,000 jobs in the province, so it's one of the leading employers, all the way from your entry-level jobs for summer students and those entering the workforce again or for the first time, all the way up to some very sophisticated jobs. So it really has a role for anyone who wants to participate in it. And so as we move through, I'll go through this slideshow together. Oops, hang on 1 second. There we go. It's broken down into 3 major components. So one is ag biotech. And so that is, if we think of how we produced our food even 10 years ago versus today, it's largely different because of the innovation and the research that came out of the bioscience industry. So that industry looks at how do we, help our soils be more productive? How do we help our plants be more resistant to drought or pests or disease? How do we make our machinery more efficient so whatever's coming off that field, it doesn't get dropped on the ground, it goes right through into food production. There's also the health component of our industry. So that's, again, if we took the same parable of, 10 years ago in cancer care versus today, what we're able to do in detecting those diseases, in treating those diseases, and keeping people healthy is very different. And it's because of the research and the innovation that comes out of the bioscience sector that helps us stay healthy and be healthier yet again. And the last component is clean technologies. And so this is the innovation and the science that's going to help us understand how do we manage droughts? How do we manage extreme weather events? How do we manage when, the heat is a lot hotter than what we had anticipated? How do we handle when, bugs and pests and all those kinds of things act differently because the climate is changing? And also, how do we be more efficient with the resources that we have? So we make them last longer, or that we're able to recycle them more and we don't have to harvest as much virgin material. And so three streams: agriculture, health, and clean technology, but they all have a very common component, that they are the place where scientists and researchers and collaboration happens to figure out how we can do it better every year. And so that's the sector at a high level glance. We have a quick video here just to go through a little bit more, so I hope you enjoy. So today we're going to focus in on ag biotech, and we've got two other sessions booked with this group to talk more about health and clean technology. But today we're going to hold on to the ag biotech and dive into that exciting sector. So when we look at that, so where is this innovation happening and where are the jobs? So the first one is with plant health, and one example is plant genomics. So there's a lot of work going into how do we help plants stay healthy and be more productive and resilient to the challenges that they face. But it's also in, how do we understand how plants work and research that happens there. And so some of that work happens in a lab, but a lot of it is also field trials, warehouse work and moving things around. So that's a very exciting space. The other three are animal health, which again can look at genetics and medicines and the way that we feed animals to make sure that they're as healthy and comfortable as possible. And again, on a production side, good yields. And soil health. This one is emerging as one of the big sectors that has a lot of up and coming companies and jobs that are emerging out of it. And so they're looking at fertilizer, ammonia, conservation. So again, if we look at how we produce plants, soil is one of the most, important components of that whole system. If we don't have healthy soils, the rest really doesn't matter. So there's a lot of attention and investment going into figuring out how do we do that better. And again, that time lay of today versus 10 years ago, today is largely different than it was 10 years ago. And people in that space are also recognizing 10 years into the future and 20 years into the future, it's going to be different yet again. So how do we stay current and understand the challenges and then bring those great solutions to make sure that we have the food that we need? And the last one is precision agriculture. And that one is looking at how do we use digitization, artificial intelligence, um, machine learning, and also how do we manufacture some of the components in agriculture to make sure that we can be as efficient as possible. And so some of the examples that come out of that is robotics. And so when we look at some of our greenhouses, they're now using, robotics to look at how they monitor the moisture in the soil, the temperature in the greenhouse, any pest identification, even looking at, visual identity of pest and plant health. All of that stuff is happening, but they need people to run those machines, fix those machines, build those machines, and be able to help understand the information that's coming out of those machines and what to do with it. So all of these components in here, the economy is growing in this sector and the jobs are growing in this sector. And it's very interesting space because I think some of the jobs we might see in these fields 5 and 10 years from now They don't exist today. They are coming. And so that's an exciting piece that we wanted to talk about with this sector at large is, again, over 14,000 employees. In Manitoba, we have some of the largest, and again, this is all the bioscience sector, so that agriculture, the health, and the clean technology. We have some of the largest manufacturers of medicines in the country are here in Manitoba. And when we put all these sectors together, it's $10 billion in revenue. And so those are really exciting facts. But what does that mean? It means there's a lot of companies here. They're growing and expanding and always looking to do better each year. And that requires people and jobs. And so I always put this in wherever I go. The number one export out of Manitoba is medicine. And that's very exciting. And agriculture really is following suit in that as well, and that the bioscience sector out of agriculture is competing as well. So I wanted to share that with you today. So when we dive into a little bit more about what is the bioscience sector, when we're looking at it from a job or a career perspective, in the next 4 years, so in 2029, in Manitoba, there will be 4,000 job openings where there is not a skilled labor ready to take that job. So for every skilled labor in this sector, they'll have the opportunity to look at 4 jobs that are waiting for them. And that is growing. That is a growing trend of this sector is continues to advance, continues to be very profitable and in demand. And that requires people to help companies deliver those products, understand that research, get those solutions out into the world that helps us, again, heal, feed, and fuel the world. When we look at agriculture, these are some of the top occupation titles that we see. Information system analyst. So what that means is anyone who can look at harvesting the data out of systems or analytics that are available and being able to analyze what that data means to answer a question a company may pose, right? So when we look at all the information that comes in from a grain elevator, for example, and they're scanning and they're doing their weights and their quality and all that kind of stuff, they may want to run some analytics on, what if we changed this or that? What would that mean? And so having some skill set in data analytics is huge. It's huge across all 3 sectors, and I think it's beyond bioscience where that data analytics piece is really in demand, right? We're a very information-based economy, and having those skills is very relevant. Chemical engineers, again, when we look at the advancement in agriculture, some of it does come from, what are we putting in our fields? What are we putting in our soils? How are we looking at, again, pests and diseases and other things, and how are we able to look at chemicals to be able to help us make sure that those plants give us the best yields that they can. We make the most out of each harvest. But also the chemical engineers side of things is also looking at, how do we synthesize different enzymes and how do we synthesize different bacteria to help us, create a process that we use to either make food or beauty products or any other kind of bioscience product. This terminology in the next one is called life science professional. And that is a bit of a generic piece where we need people to run these themes of work in companies. And so life science professional means you understand how the chemical side of things work, the information side of the things work, and you're able to kind of orchestrate those things together to create either a solution or a product that's needed. So it's almost that management piece, but you understand how these different systems kind of work. An agricultural service contractor. A lot of companies are divesting some of their in-house expertise, their in-house service provider, and they want to work with contractors to deliver the services that they need. And so again, that's one that we see as a huge growth potential in this sector. So when we think of, someone who's running a greenhouse and they're trying to bring in AI or they're trying to understand a problem that they have, they won't necessarily hire an in-house, information systems analyst. They're going to go to a service provider and retain them to come in and help them with the problem that they have or the information that they're trying to collect. Specialized livestock workers is also another big one. When we look at how we produce our food, the demand for livestock continues to be huge. But it's becoming more of a complex field where, when we look at biohazards and the control of diseases and those kinds of things, it's a bit more of a changing landscape than what we saw probably 20 years ago. And so that's why you see that specialized livestock worker. It's people who can be amongst the animals on the day-to-day piece, but then also be called upon when, they either need some health support or there's something that needs to be analyzed further. Another trend that we're seeing is, again, it isn't specific just to the bioscience, this is happening all across all sectors, is automation in agriculture. And again, when we look at how we produce our food, we're starting to talk about combines that have nobody driving in the machine. It's controlled remotely, right? And how we sort our food products. You're starting to see that automation become more and more a role of, okay, everything gets put in a bin and automation sorts it out based on quality or destination. And another very interesting fact is females in these sectors over the last 25 years, we've seen a huge growth potential, but it's not done yet. So, when we see in 2025 is only 1 year away, we're going to see the number of women or females in this sector triple over the last 25 years. And that's something we continue to see growing. And so, again, that's an encouraging stat. The other graphic we have here on the screen is just a little bit on the sort of green piece of things. And so as all of these systems and jobs emerge, there's also another key theme, is that the impact on the environment is a top concern. And so as everyone looks at how they're going to innovate and the challenges that they're exploring and the jobs that come out of that, we put this graph on here. So if we look at the 2022 survey data, again, it's one of the highest years where we saw people say, you know what, I have to pay attention to what is required for the environment and build that into my business. Oops, there we go. So career paths in the bioscience sector. This is just a very high level flyby. We'll go down into some more detailed pieces in a bit, but biological sciences. And so that can be everything from your PhD down to your more entry level credentials. They're all needed. And when we looked at that stat a little while ago, 4,000 jobs for every skilled worker, that's across the spectrum from, again, those PhD qualifications all the way through to an entry level skill set. So again, when I look at this sector, there's a job for really anyone who's willing to step in, and there's sometimes some training required. So biological sciences, if you have skills in that, or if that's something that you're interested in gaining or getting, you can look for jobs as research scientist, biologist. A lot of government agencies also need this skill set because they will be asked to regulate some of these industries and they have to go in and either inspect or write policy on it. Biological technician, and of course, chemist. The next one is microbiology. So if you're interested in that study of the sort of smaller things in life, there's lots of jobs there too. And they can be both in an office setting, in a lab, or in the field. And so some of the themes of work that come out of that are horticulturalist, biochemist, agricultural technician, and biological technician. And again, there's a lot happening in this space, and there really is a job for all. Environmental sciences is another one that we see just booming right now. And so again, that's the interaction of our jobs with the environment. So horticultural consultant, environmental chemistry, biogeochemist, environmental manager, water quality is very in demand right now, and many more. Also, there's agribusiness. So we talked a little bit earlier about some of these companies, they don't want to have this skill set or this sort of theme of work inside their business. They're going to work with someone who has that skill set and they can work in either a contract or a service agreement. And so again, when we look at business and science, those are people that are in either the grain companies, the government agencies, banks and credit unions, and agricultural equipment dealerships. So there's subsectors in there that have connections to our industry. Food science is huge, and we have a lot of touch points here in Manitoba and where you can kind of connect with jobs. But at a high level, it's food chemistry, microbiology, product development, consulting, research, nutrition, quality control, and also inspection. And we'll touch on this in one of our next videos, but we have the Richardson Food Science Center here in Winnipeg, and there's a lot of interesting work that's happening there where people can go in and really understand how their food product is meeting the expectation of the customer. And so there's jobs there in testing products for taste and texture and shelf life and all those packaging, and how do you tinker in that space to make that product the best that it can be for all of those different metrics. Computer science, I think every sector we connect with talks about computer science. The biosciences is no exception. So again, these are the folks that can do the problem solving. And when we look at this, some jobs that come out of it are information system analyst, software developer, research scientist, people who can work in data. So that's harvesting data and analyzing it based on a request. Also in financials, one thing I always remind people that these are companies and they need really all the components of a company, regardless of what sector they're in. So they need HR, they need finance, they need people who can help them with training, people who can help them run the office building, logistics, transportation, marketing, and sales. So we have finance in here, but those other ones are relevant as well. Digital technology is a big one, and we've got a lead on some credentials later on in the presentation. The other ones, again, were no exception. Robotics, nanotechnology, so really looking at the finer ways of how our natural systems work and how we can use that to help us solve some problems. And virtual reality technicians. A lot of things are happening on the virtual reality side in this sector, where you might not necessarily need to travel to a college to take a combine repair course. You might actually do some of that through virtual technology, backed up by real world experience. And we see that happening throughout the whole bioscience sector. Biosystems engineering. This is another one that's very much on fire right now. It's growing a lot. So again, this is people who have those kind of engineering skill sets or aptitudes that can work in biological and environmental sciences. So environmental protection is a big one, and that is a very big sector. So that could be anything from waste streams to water to how we harvest materials from the natural environment, air pollution, and all those kinds of things. Food safety, medical devices, alternative energy products. On that one, if I could plant a seed with a few folks about Manitoba, sustainable aviation fuel is something that's emerging here as a great big economic driver. And when we see that building out here in Manitoba, it's everything from getting the feedstock that's going to turn into jet fuel. So that's the stems out of the fields that we're surrounded by. They love the grain that's on top or the seed, the oil seed that's in the plant. But the piece that's left behind is the future is it's destined for jet fuel. And so that's another one I'm excited to talk about a little bit later on is what do jobs in that sector look like? And again, this is one of those stories you might not see that job today, but 3, 4, 5 years from now, there'll be plenty of those jobs here in the province. And of course, agricultural equipment. Nothing comes off the field without equipment helping us out. So how can we support? We're, again, an industry association. So companies work very well with us. Government works very well with us to help people find connections to careers in the bioscience. So we have 2 events that are coming up, and happy to share details when we have more. But one is Find Work Here. And so these are sessions that we're setting up where companies will be in the room. It's kind of like a career fair, but I think we've done it one better. Companies will be in the room, and also job seekers will be in the room. And we'll set them up to meet with each other for about 5 minutes to get a sense of what jobs are coming up and what skill set the employee has, and that there may be a connection there. And if not, that's okay. There's 30 other companies in the room, and it's almost like that speed dating approach of job seeker and company meeting together to understand each other and seeing if there's a connection there. And again, it's for all skill sets, from someone who's re-entering the workforce or for the first time, or someone with more advanced skill sets. So we're really excited to support those people that are looking for jobs by hosting that event. So stay tuned for more details. The Mentorship Me piece, when we surveyed people looking for jobs and also industry, what we heard is we would love to hear more about what a career can look like in the bioscience. It is largely an unknown industry. People usually connect to it because they know someone or if they've heard something about it. It's not widely known. And that's something that as an industry association, we're looking to change. So these sessions are going to be, you'll come in, you'll sit down. We'll have some career experts up on the stage, and they're going to share about their career in the bioscience field from the first early days all the way through to their leadership position. And they'll also share with the job seekers in the crowd what is their advice today on how to connect with a bioscience job. So they might talk about, training that people could take, or even in the demand for workers these days, come and join the company and I will train you up, right? And so it's encouraging people to emerge, to step into the workforce and understand a lot of these companies will train you up to get the skill set that you need for that job too. The next one here is come and meet the bioscience sector. So this is something that we've put together. It's loading up buses to go and see some of these amazing facilities that are here in the province. So people can kind of visualize what a career might be inside of one of these big buildings. Again, our sector is largely not known. People aren't familiar with what all the jobs are entailing in these companies. So that's one of the things we would love to share with this group is come and join one of these bus tours, find one that works for you, and come and see one of these facilities. And it won't just be the walk through the facility. It'll be backed up with sitting down with the company sort of leaders after the tour. And they're going to talk about what a career could look like inside that company. What job openings are coming up? What training do they offer? And how they might be able to support you in joining their great team. So remember, we've got more jobs than we have people. So things are changing in this sector to figure out how we can have the workforce that's needed for all this great work. And of course, BAM, we have some other things that we wanted to note here for those that are looking for jobs. We have a career support services arm within our group. And so Jean's here today. She's one of the team members on that. And again, what we do here is we do industry specific training. So again, in our sector, there's a lot of training that's needed that isn't generally available, and industries asked us as an industry association to help them. And so we've brought in the trainers and the experts that are needed and hosted training sessions so we can get that training out into the workforce and get that trained workforce ready for this great work. We also have financial support. And so that's something that if you're interested in a job in this field, we can connect you with the things that you need to take that to the next level, and also guidance. Again, this industry isn't very well known. And so we have a good connection with a lot of industry and we know where a lot of the jobs lie. And so if that's a connection point that's useful to you, we would love to have that conversation to get a sense of what it is that you're looking for. And then we can look at all the companies and the jobs that are available and try and create some connection points there as well. Some other ones that are we wanted to highlight today is Red River College Polytechnique has a life science technologist certification. And so when we talked about that life science sort of professional, it's exactly the training that that kind of career would need. And again, it's I think it's 18 months and it's very much in demand. And it's enough of a general course that you could look at many different jobs with that title behind you. And again, they've got a lot of supports to help people connect with those training opportunities and set them up for success. MITT also has some micro credentials that line up very well with our industry. They're starting more health data analytics micro credentials. So anyone who is looking at being in that field where they're able to get all the data that they need and then analyze it to solve a problem or answer a question. It's a bit of a complex space, and that micro credential is meant to be that support that you need to show that you're able to do that work. And again, that's one to pay attention to if that's of interest to you. And then also our University of Manitoba has extended ed courses. They're working with us at Bioscience Association Manitoba to really understand what is the job market needing that isn't currently available and how can they help fill it. So again, these are almost like a micro credential or a training session, a one sort of training session to help people get the skills that they need to get in that workforce and doing some of this great work. So I've put the website for ourselves up at the top. So it's biomb.ca. We have a lot of this stuff up on our website. So if you want to kind of take some time and look through that, and then reach out to us anytime for a conversation, we'd be more than happy to have that conversation and see how we can help. It's also going to be the spot where you're going to see more information on Find Work Here, those sort of interactions with companies who are looking for workers. The Mentorship Me events, where you can sit in the audience and listen to people who have built their careers and how that worked for them. And then also their advice to those that are seeking to enter the bioscience sector and come and meet the bioscience sector. Those bus tours to go out and see companies and hear from their leaders about what the job openings are, and then also what they're willing to invest in training and skill-based learning to help people walk through the door, get the training that they need, and then advance in their companies. Um, our next one here I wanted to talk a little bit about was some of our companies that we wanted to feature, just to give a little bit more color on what this bioscience sector is. And you can kind of envision what some of the companies are within it. So one is called Yuko Robotics. They're not that far away from Winnipeg. And what they're doing is they're looking at how to automate barns. And so if we think of a barn that houses animals, where can we create robotics or automation to take care of some of those tasks to make sure those animals have everything that they need for good quality of life? It's a very exciting company. It's not very big at this point, but you can see industry saying, you know what, maybe I could create an autonomous element into my barn and allow that to be the way I operate. So that's one to pay attention to. Again, we have them on our website. It's one of our features, so feel free to go there if you want to learn a little bit more. Site Bio is another one. So again, this is a company that's looking at the very micro levels of soil health. And they're trying to figure out, well, they've done a pretty good job of figuring out, now they're commercializing, how do we use natural systems to help our soils stay healthy? And so they've gone in and kind of understand the microbes of soil health, and they've created products that kind of mimic that, but you're able to apply it on a large scale. And that's another company. It's XITEBIO. And again, if you Google that, I'll give you another little snapshot into what this sector is doing. And again, they're growing. So there's, again, when we envision jobs that are maybe 3, 4, and 5 years out that don't exist today, when you Google a company like that, you can kind of envision what those jobs might be. Another one that we wanted to talk about was Fuel Positive. And so that's a company, again, not very far away from Winnipeg, but this is that emerging component that we should be paying attention to. They are building ammonia on site. And so currently that component for agriculture comes from overseas. They want to be able to manufacture it on the farm so that when we look at, disruptions to the supply chain and everything, we take that out of the equation, and farmers have full control over that very important component of farming that they need to make sure that their soil and their plants have everything they need to be as productive as possible. And also create some stability on the pricing side for them too. They don't have the volatility of a commodity that moves around. So again, Fuel Positive is another one if you want to Google that one. It'll give you a sense of where the sector is going and what those emerging jobs are. But like we said before, there's 4,000 jobs for every skilled, or sorry, 4 jobs for every skilled employee in the companies that exist right now. So that's just going to grow and grow and grow. The next one is called, we touched on this a little bit, the Prairie Research Kitchen. And so this is within Red River, and it's a great example of another stream of jobs out of the bio sector for agriculture. They look at food. And so one of the examples you'll see in this video is they're looking at donuts. And so someone has created a great recipe for donuts. But they want to grow, they want to be able to do them en masse and send them out to stores to be sold. And so that's very different than just baking something and then eating it right away. They need to think about shelf life. They need to think about being very consistent with their oil temperature because now we're going to make it in big batches. They need to think about how long it's going to cook with that kind of shelf life question in mind. So I'd love to show you this next video that gives us a little bit of a sneak peek into that facility. And again, there's jobs there, but also it's inspiring us to think about what other jobs might be in this sector. Great. I hope the audio is coming through for everyone. So again, that was a bit of an overview of another lens of what ag bioscience can be, agricultural bioscience can be. Really interesting. So when we saw them pouring that sort of yellow sort of putting into those containers, that was like a sauce for barbecue. And what they're testing there is when it goes through manufacturing, they want to make sure that it pours in easy and it doesn't get kind of all glumped up. And then also when it pours in, it flows nicely and doesn't create big splats all over the clear part of the top of the bottle. So again, that's another element of what this sector is, and trying to figure out how do you solve those problems that if it glumps up and you can't pour it out bottle after bottle, how do you solve that? It's very fascinating. And again, kind of allows you to pick what your passion is and then follow those kinds of things. So we have more sessions that we're going to do in the future with this group. Again, we're going to touch on health in a future session. And we just wanted to give a bit of an overview of what we're going to cover there. So again, when we look at how we're going to heal the world, it looks at food and the ingredients we use in our food and how do we improve upon those to make sure we're as healthy as possible. Medical technology. So this is looking at how do we detect diseases, how do we treat them, how do we prevent them, and how do we even eliminate them. Therapeutics are the medicines that we take to keep us healthy or to treat something that's harming us. And then digital health, again, when we talked about some of those computer science and those information based jobs, digital health is another one that's emerging. And again, I always want to remind everyone I talk to that this isn't just the hard science that's needed. There's so many wraparound jobs for this industry: finance, HR, logistics, marketing, sales, even entry-level jobs too that can be part of the production side of these things. These companies are building, things that they're selling in stores, so they need to package them and ship them and label them and make sure that the quality control of what it is that they're packaging up stays on point. And then the other one we're going to go through in a future session is clean biotechnology. So again, when we look at climate change and making sure we use everything as best we can and being as, making sure that we're not overusing things and that we're able to regenerate the natural products that we're using so we don't deplete them. Bioenergy is a big one. So one of the chapters that are coming up for Manitoba is sustainable aviation fuel. So again, that's taking some of our waste products like the stems and fields and using that to make aviation fuel to fly our planes. Those are emerging sectors in Manitoba. And again, it's going to make that, one skilled labor with 4 job openings, it's going to make that bigger yet again. Biochemicals, biomass fuels, and biomaterials. Those are all things that this sector is looking at, and they need people to help them achieve those goals. So again, before I wrap up, we are the Bioscience Association of Manitoba. We have about $6 billion in GDP that's coming out of these over 700 companies, and it's growing. This one's not going away. It has the big sort of audacious goal of being able to heal, feed, and fuel our world. So that health, agriculture, and clean technology piece. And so that's the end of my slideshow and what I brought today. But happy to either answer any questions or if anyone wants to hear a little bit more about one of those pieces.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for that informative presentation. Now we will open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions? Again, please type your questions in the question panel box or raise your hand and we will unmute you so you can ask your question. We welcome both English and French questions and we will try to get through as many as time permits.
Alors, est-ce que nous avons des questions? Encore une fois, veuillez taper vos questions sur le panneau de questions-réponses ou lever la main et nous réactiverons votre micro pour que vous puissiez poser votre question. Nous essaierons d'en traiter autant que le temps le permettra.
Thank you so much, Rabha. We have a hand raised. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question. You're probably unmute yourself.
Is that
Perfect.
okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Andrea, thank you for your presentation. It was really helpful for me. Why? Because I'm a newcomer in Canada and my background is food engineering, but in Canada there is no title as a food engineering. So I got my PR and I would like to join a job related my background. And in our country, our education include microbiology, biochemistry, biotechnology. So I believe my background is matching
Yes.
exactly that area. And I'm a food scientist. So I'm working with academia in collaboration. But the thing is, I never understand from the title of job posting what they are
Yes.
exactly looking for. So my question is, uh, if BAM has power to change something related to this title and job postings, because every time I need to read title, this is not related, but let's read DIDAR. Okay, I'm reading. Oh, it's good. Let's prepare my resume, cover letter, what else? And I'm losing time.
What a great point. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
So one of the things I am going to take away, we have an HR committee that we meet every 3 months, and it's the HR representatives from most of our companies. We kind of sit down and talk about what are the challenges that they're having, or how do we share information, and also how do we share our programming with them so that they can use them. I'm going to mention that to those companies because I think, and I don't think that's just specific to bioscience. It's probably other. We get very wrapped up in job titles and we make them as complex as we can, which maybe makes you feel good when you're reciting it at a party. But for someone searching a job, yeah, I can totally see that. So thank you for that piece of information. We'll take that away and share that with our companies of as descriptive as possible, not complex as possible. So if I may ask, you've found a job here, or is it something you're still looking for?
No, not yet. I'm just honestly, I'm just applying for universities, research institutes, and colleges right now. I'm not looking for any entry level jobs because I have 18 years of academia
Yes.
background. So I want to use these research and teaching experience in a true area in Canada. That's my aim.
If I may share this and just for consideration,
Mhm.
there are a lot of companies that would be very excited to see your skill set as well, right? And so I think that's one of the things we talk about. Again, when I meet with people, we talk a lot about is um, sciences is often associated with universities for those very advanced jobs, but a lot of companies have those positions within their company, not as much with the teaching side, but that complex science piece. So again, if you ever want to talk more about what companies are looking for, there's that stream I'm sure is available to you as well.
Do you think where can I exactly reach that companies? Please don't say me Indeed or the other things.
No. Reach out to us, right? And so we have companies coming to us saying, help me find people. And we kind
But
of get a sense
directly,
of,
I need to reach your HR, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's I'll put it in the chat so everyone can copy and paste it.
Thank you so much. That's a
Yes,
good
of course.
opportunity.
And you know what? We hear that often where we have someone who has an extremely unique skill set and they look to academia when industry needs them as well. So I've put that in there. So if anyone wants to use that with your question or if you want to connect with companies, reach out anytime.
Okay, thank you very much for your consideration and help. Last thing, your videos were silent for us. Is that a
Oh no.
by purpose or something else?
Oh, did everyone have that problem?
I'm
Someone text
guessing we
also.
did, yeah.
Okay, what I can do is, Ida, if I could email them to you,
Yes,
and maybe email them out, maybe in the presentation I had a setting not turned on. My
yes,
apologies.
of course I can.
Yeah. But yeah,
Thank you.
that food science one would be of interest to you, I'm sure, with Red River and their food research kitchen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think you know Heather Hill. She was working there. We had
Yes.
this discussion also with her. Hope, thank God, she find a job better than that kitchen. And
Ah,
I'm so glad of so it's so great for her. I would like to have same happiness with her.
absolutely. Reach out. Let's see what we can, how we can help.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I see, Harmanjeet, you've put in the chat about a master's in zoology. I think I would say the same thing. Reach out to us. We have companies that are looking for those things. And again, some of these companies, I know it's frustrating, don't always post in the mainstreams. So again, reach out to us as well.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We have another hand raised up. Tevfik, I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question. You're muted yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation. Actually, I was not how do I say that? When I got this invitation, I was skeptical about it. So, but from your presentation itself, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel for me in Manitoba.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
because
glad. Best comment. Yeah.
yeah, because when I came here almost I think a year now. So I'm a PhD researcher. I mean, sorry, I have a PhD in chemical engineering.
Oh
From
my
what
goodness.
yeah, and from
Yeah.
what I've seen so far in Manitoba, chemical engineering is not well pronounced. Even all the universities, you can I've never seen chemical engineering as a course here. So that was one of the reasons that made me try to divert away a little bit to environmental engineering, since my research area also there's this kind of intersection between chemical engineering and environmental engineering. So I went out of the way to, I mean, I think you know Eco Canada. There was a program by Eco Canada that allow foreign trained individuals who are willing to go into environmental engineering for a 6 month program, internship here in code. So that was why I got that first 6 month position at the University of Manitoba, Department of Civil Engineering. So, I mean, this, I'm just trying to let you know that this is the journey I've faced and all the challenges I've faced so far, getting a position that actually suits my area. So my research area basically is all about carbon utilization, which is very close to what you have in clean biotech. And sometimes when I apply to jobs, well, I've been looking for jobs right now because my internship position has ended. So I've been looking, but I face this like this problem, one, overqualification, because most companies will not want to accept you having a PhD. I mean, that's what I've seen so far, except you have probably at the university, like for research areas in the
Yeah.
university. Sometimes uh, due to funding, so you are somehow limited to opportunities you have. Since my major research area, which I've been doing for the almost 5, 6 years, is not available yet. So a bit, it's a challenge for me. But going into the industry, this is another challenge. Being overqualified, you see different job roles that might not be suited for what you've already. The uh your skill set. So this is one of the challenges I have so far. And looking at what your presentation now, I see. Especially this is the research area where I'm looking into. A clean tech area. It perfectly suits my research area. There's an alignment. So, but now you said most of these work are not being posted. So, but I think you've
Yes.
already answered the question by reaching out to you.
Yeah.
We could see where there could be area of match with current skill set. So
Yeah.
I'm
A
very
lot.
grateful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
good.
Yeah. So
Sorry. Go
I'm very
ahead.
happy about that. I'm very happy about that. Like, so that's the reason why I said there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because at one point in time I've been considering maybe I have to leave Manitoba because it's actually been, it's really challenging. When you have some skill set but you're unable to apply your own skill set within an environment,
Yeah.
it's really frustrating. So that's for first question. First comment. Second one is that for someone who has been working in this area, do you think uh, um, I mean, I need some trainings again to venture into clean biotech, clean technology. Yeah, because
Yep.
I don't know what uh, how to call it, the employers will be willing. I mean, will want from you as an internationally trained professional. I mean, uh, yeah, we want from you to for you to work with them. So I don't know. So that's the question I want to ask. If
Okay.
we require some other trainings I mean, to integrate into the company, or that can be done concurrently while you're working. So
Yeah.
really want to know here.
Yeah, so Tufik, you mentioned something, again, I find myself talking about this often, is some of our companies, I mean, they've got their head down and they're trying to run their business. And sometimes I hear this come from them is, if I want to find, again, like the qualifications that you talked about, I have to go to Toronto or Vancouver to find that talent. And we're working really hard with them. I joined back in January to say, that talent is here in Manitoba. How do we help connect companies with these amazing jobs with the talent that's here that maybe they just don't know each other exists, right? Like they haven't created those connection points. So stay in touch with us. I would love to get an email from you as well, because I think I've got a couple companies I would love to point in your direction. Will have their head down and they're just trying to get their company, running. The time is now for them. So they probably aren't doing the great job of posting jobs. They're just probably chucking them out where they can. Because you've got a great skill set, and I hear from companies that's exactly what I need. So I'd love to have that conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. There is one more question in the chat box. I'm going to let you read it. It's a little bit long,
Sure.
or yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
read it as well for the other attendees. I am agronomist engineer. I've more experience in my country, more than 14 years, and I'm subscribed with MIA and waiting for the answer. It can be at the end of September. So how can I apply for a job in Manitoba?
Perfect. So if possible to get training and experience, again, I would say email us. We have a bit of government funding and partnerships with training agencies that give us either free or very discounted. Again, we can figure out the money side of things. Access to training that gives you either national, like Canadian, or Manitoba certified training, again, in all the fields that we talked about today. And that might help with some of the job hunting when you can say, like, I've done this recent training with BAM or with another Canadian institution. And also the people who are helping with the training, like myself and some of my national counterparts, have a lot of line of sights with companies hiring jobs, because they come to us to say, help me hire someone too. So I would say the same thing. Send me an email of what, a little bit more on your CV and such. And then let's see what opportunities we can put in front of you. And also we can hook you up with some of our job listings that get mailed out. So all the bioscience companies send us their job listings. We post them on the BAM site. And then we also have a couple other bioscience specific job sites that we put jobs on. So people might be just putting them in those bioscience specific job boards and not maybe the mass kind of sites that you see. So there's another one for people to look at as well.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining us today. We are at the end of our time, and thank you for all the participants for your excellent questions. I am
Thank you. It
going
was
to
a
share,
pleasure.
of course, I'm going to share my screen really quick. If you are not currently a Manitoba Start client, you can call our front desk, visit in person, or complete our online registration form that is on our website under for newcomers tab. If you click here, go for the register for services, and you will be able to register online from this button here. By registering with Manitoba Start, you will connect with settlement services and have access to career services that can assist you with resume development, career planning, job search strategies, and interview skills. For a list of programs and services offered by Career Services, go under the Career Services tab of the website. As you can see, we offer e-learning workshops, in-person workshops, and lots of resources here. Lastly, please take a look at our events page. You can see all our events here. And there is also webinar recordings. If you miss a webinar, you can always come here and watch our webinar recordings.
Et si vous souhaitez être connecté à la communauté francophone pour obtenir du soutien à l'établissement ou à l'emploi, veuillez contacter EDA pour cela. J'espère que vous avez trouvé cela utile. Merci.
Don't forget that Manitoba Start is here to assist you by providing services such as personalized career coaching, developing your resume, or job search assistance to help you find sustainable employment. Please follow us on social media to stay up on date on our latest events. So on behalf of Andrea from BAM Ag Biotech and Manitoba Start team, thank you for attending and stay well.